On January 11, 2013, a tragedy unfolded in Valdosta, Georgia, a case that would send shockwaves across the nation. Kendrick Johnson, a 17-year-old African-American high school student, was found dead in a way that defied explanation. His body was discovered inside a rolled-up wrestling mat at Lowndes High School's gymnasium, setting the stage for a mystery that would captivate and confuse the public. I am the Collector, and I invite you to join me as we peel back the layers of this complex and tragic mystery, one that has haunted Kendrick's family, the community, and anyone who dares to seek the truth. This is a story that remains unsolved to this day. But as questions swirled and investigations took unexpected turns, many began to wonder, was this a simple accident or something far more sinister? The authorities would soon find themselves tangled in their own contradictions, fueling a firestorm of controversy. The official investigation conducted by local authorities initially concluded that Kendrick's death was an accident caused by positional asphyxia, a condition where one is unable to breathe due to their position, which was believed to have occurred after Kendrick climbed into the wrestling mat to retrieve a shoe. According to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, GBI, the autopsy supported this theory. They suggested that Kendrick became stuck inside the mat and suffocated. However, the Johnson family, Kendrick's parents, Heath and Jacqueline, strongly disputed this version of events. They believed the conclusion was flawed, expressing deep skepticism about the circumstances. In their search for justice, the Johnson family hired a private pathologist, Dr. William R. Anderson, to conduct a second autopsy. His findings were starkly different from those of the GBI. Dr. Anderson concluded that Kendrick's death was not an accident, but instead was the result of blunt force trauma, suggesting foul play. This alternative conclusion only deepened the suspicions surrounding the case, leading to heightened controversy. One of the key pieces of evidence in the case was the school's surveillance footage, which unfortunately was not complete. Hours of critical footage from the day of Kendrick's death were either missing or deemed unusable, leading to widespread speculation about potential cover-ups and the lack of transparency in the investigation. The Johnson family and the public were left to wonder why key footage was missing at such a pivotal moment. In light of these uncertainties, Kendrick's family took legal action, filing a wrongful death lawsuit against the Lowndes County School District. The lawsuit accused the district of racial discrimination and harassment, alleging that Kendrick's death was part of a broader pattern of mistreatment at the school. The lawsuit also implicated individuals they believed might have been involved in a cover-up, which further fueled public debate and discussion around the case. Despite these legal actions, the case continued to face obstacles. After public outcry, the U.S. Department of Justice and the FBI launched their own investigations into Kendrick's death in October 2013. However, in June 2016, federal authorities closed the case, stating that there was insufficient evidence to bring criminal charges. This decision left many, including Kendrick's family and activists, deeply unsatisfied, leading to ongoing calls for a more thorough re-examination of the case. The persistence of doubts and activism. Even though the official investigations were closed, the doubts and questions surrounding Kendrick's death did not dissipate. The Johnson family, along with supporters and activists, continued to demand that the truth be uncovered. They believed that the case was far from being resolved and that more needed to be done to address the unanswered questions. The persistence of the family, along with widespread media attention, kept the case alive in the public eye. Conspiracy theories surrounding Kendrick's death began to proliferate, with some individuals suggesting that foul play was involved and that there may have been a deliberate cover-up. These theories often implicated fellow students, school officials, or other individuals associated with Lowndes High School. However, it is important to note that these theories were never supported by credible evidence, and official investigations failed to substantiate any of these claims. The ongoing controversy surrounding Kendrick's death was fueled not only by the unresolved questions, but also by the emotional toll it took on his family. The Johnsons, having lost their son in such an inexplicable manner, continued to fight for answers despite the challenges. Their unwavering belief that Kendrick did not die by accident and their efforts to seek justice brought attention to broader issues of racial discrimination, transparency in investigations, and the treatment of minority students in schools. The case of Kendrick Johnson remains unresolved, and the questions surrounding his death continue to linger. As of now, no official suspects have been named, and no charges have been filed in connection with his death. The ongoing uncertainty surrounding the case, coupled with the conflicting evidence, has left many wondering if the full truth will ever be revealed. The investigation and unanswered questions. The investigation into Kendrick Johnson's death involved multiple agencies, each contributing its expertise and resources to uncover what happened. These included local law enforcement, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, GBI, the FBI, and even private investigators hired by the Johnson family. Despite these efforts, the case remains controversial due to conflicting conclusions and the mystery surrounding the key evidence. Local law enforcement was the first to respond to Kendrick's death, initiating an investigation that led to the conclusion of an accidental death. However, it was the GBI's involvement that provided the official autopsy report, which supported this accidental death theory based on the idea that Kendrick had climbed into the mat and got stuck. The FBI also became involved after the Johnson family's persistent calls for further investigation, but by 2016, they too closed their investigation due to insufficient evidence. However, one of the most contentious aspects of the case was the surveillance footage from the school's gymnasium. Surveillance cameras were set up in the area where Kendrick's body was found, yet several hours of footage from that day were either missing or not usable. This raised further suspicions about potential tampering or deliberate cover-ups. The absence of this crucial footage left a hole in the investigation, and many believed that it was a deliberate attempt to prevent the truth from being revealed. One of the most significant pieces of physical evidence in the case was the rolled-up gym mat in which Kendrick's body was found. The official theory suggested that Kendrick climbed into the mat to retrieve a shoe but became trapped and suffocated. However, questions were raised about the plausibility of this scenario. The size of the mat and the position of Kendrick's body made some experts skeptical of the explanation. Additionally, the condition of Kendrick's clothing and personal items, including his shoes, were analyzed for signs of foul play, but no definitive evidence of trauma was found on the clothing. Despite the findings of the official investigations, the family hired private pathologist Dr. William R. Anderson, who conducted a second autopsy. Dr. Anderson's report raised serious doubts about the official cause of death, suggesting that Kendrick had died due to blunt force trauma rather than accidental asphyxiation. The conflict between these two autopsy reports only added to the confusion and deepened the public's skepticism about the official narrative. Witness statements and forensic analysis also played a critical role in shaping the investigation. Witnesses who had interacted with Kendrick on the day of his death were interviewed to help establish a timeline of events. Blood spatter analysis and other forensic tests were carried out on the crime scene and the gym mat to determine if any evidence supported the theory of foul play. Despite all these investigations and the conflicting reports, the case remains unsolved, and no official suspects have been named. Various conspiracy theories continue to circulate, with some speculating that fellow students or school officials might have been involved. However, none of these theories have been substantiated by credible evidence. The ongoing mystery surrounding Kendrick Johnson's death has sparked public outcry and calls for more transparency in investigations. His family's quest for justice continues to shed light on broader issues of racial discrimination, the treatment of minority students in schools, and the need for accountability in high-profile cases. While Kendrick's family continues to seek answers, the case remains one of the most controversial and unresolved mysteries in recent years. Stay tuned for the next video. Don't forget to subscribe channel.